So I've been thinking a little bit about my first night in California. We had moved to Davis and had unpacked our kitchen, and all of our glassware was on the kitchen table waiting to go through the washer and get put into the new cabinets. And at about 1 a.m, all of a sudden, all the glasses started to chinkle, chinkle, chinkle. You knew what was happening. We did not. We had no idea what was happening. It was a large earthquake up in Northern California. But it was in 2014, and we were jolted wide awake. And that is exactly what Jesus does for us here during Advent. It is an unexpected alert to wake up, be aware, pay attention. But we really would prefer a night's quiet Advent where we can just be peaceful. But that is not what Jesus gives us. It is not what the church gives us. Jesus speaks of suddenness and surprise and keeping awake. The prophets call for valleys to be lifted up and rough places made smooth. It's not quiet. It's not sentimental. It's meant to wake you up with a little bit of a jolt. And the collect for this first Sunday of Advent tells us exactly what we are waking up for: to cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. That is our work of preparation. And it doesn't happen passively. It is not about waiting for Christmas to arrive or hoping that holiness will just descend upon us. It is about active preparation, a clearing away of what keeps us from seeing God, and a conscious clothing of ourselves in mercy, courage, and joy. To put on the armor of light is to choose hope over cynicism, to put trust over fear, love over resentment. That is not easy work. It is spiritual work. And it's the kind of preparing that opens us up to God's future and to the transformation that is already taking place among us. And maybe that's why this Advent feels especially close to home for you and for me today. Because we too are living in a season of preparation, a time in between what has been and what is yet to come. We are discerning, trusting, and readying our hearts for what God is bringing next in this parish's life. Advent reminds us that God's new beginnings, they don't come all at once. They unfold even as we prepare the way. And this time of transition, yours and mine, is exactly that kind of holy work. It's not passive waiting, but faithful preparing for what God is already bringing to life among us. Waiting in the biblical imagination is what happens when we live between promise and fulfillment, when our hearts ache for what God has yet to bring to completion. But waiting can easily slip into passivity, a holding pattern that watches the horizon but forgets to tend to the present moment. The people in the days of Noah, they weren't waiting, they were just unaware. And Jesus recalls this in Matthew's gospel. They were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. Those are all good and ordinary things, aren't they? But they lived as though nothing in their world was going to change, and their danger wasn't really about moral corruption so much as spiritual complacency, a dullness to the possibility that God might be moving among them and bringing about a new time, a new season. And that, Jesus warns us, is the very real peril of every age. Not wickedness, but unawareness. Not rebellion, but spiritual sleep. But preparing is something else entirely. Preparing is active. It's hopeful. It's a way of shaping our days towards God's promise. The prophets don't tell people, wait for God to come and fix things. That is not the prophet's message. They tell them, prepare the way of the Lord. They call them to align their lives with the future that God is already bringing. That's not waiting. That's actively getting ready. Of course, there's a kind of preparation that can make us anxious, the kind that frets about outcomes, what's going to happen, that grows frantic when the details or the timelines don't fall into place exactly the way we want them to, the kind of preparation that clings tightly to how things should unfold. That kind of preparing, it shrinks time. It makes time and schedules close in on us. It reduces our imagination and possibilities. And frequently, Advent becomes that kind of frantic pace as we prep for Christmas and all the expectations around that. It can happen in a rector call process too, right? We cling and hope and we want a certain thing to happen. But holy preparation, watchful preparation, it's different. It's different. It has a generosity that expands time. It makes room for grace, for God's action to break in, and for surprises that we didn't plan for. When you live in that spirit, you begin to see how events unfold according to God's will, not your own. And you learn to trust that God's timing, however hidden, is always leading towards redemption, because God is always leading us to redemption and reconciliation. And Jesus does the very same thing when he says, keep awake, be ready. He isn't asking us be anxious or fearful. He's inviting us into a new way of life, a new way that practices the kingdom now, the habits of mercy, justice, compassion, and courage. Preparing means living as though Christ could be recognized, maybe Christ is recognized in any and every person we meet, in every circumstance we face. Preparing means letting hope have a claim on how we choose to live today, right now. That is the heart of Advent. A steady, watchful, hopeful preparing, trusting that God's future is already pressing into this very moment. And Isaiah gives us a glimpse of that very future. He shall judge between the nations and shall arbitrate for the many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. Let us walk in the light of the Lord. That is the world we prepare for, and the light that all saints in Beverly Hills is invited to walk in now. In many ways, this Advent season, it feels especially close to us as we are in a season of holy preparation, a time between what has been and what is yet to come. Your search committee and your vestry is discerning a call for a new rector. They are well on their way, surrounded and strengthened by our prayers and the Holy Spirit. And as for my own discernment, I am grateful and excited that the people of Trinity Cathedral in Little Rock, Arkansas have called me to serve as their next dean and rector. Their search committee and their vestry, they're both voted unanimously across the board, a clear affirmation of their congruence, their unity, and their confidence about this call. And I'm excited. It's sad to leave, it's hard to leave, and I am so excited about this next call and the trust that they have placed in me. The new ministry is in many ways a homecoming. You all mostly know that this accent comes from Little Rock, I was ordained in that very cathedral and served there as a curate. It feels strong somehow and right and prayerful, and draws on my experience in the wider churches, my love for parish ministry, for music, for liturgy, for complicated systems and ministries. And I am eager to join that vibrant cathedral community and move to Little Rock, which is a wonderful city that is near and dear to my heart. I will always carry the deepest gratitude and love for you, for All Saints in Beverly Hills. You welcomed me with open arms. Together we have shared sacred and joyful ministry over these years. We've done hard things, challenging things, and walked through these years with grace and love and care. This parish, I believe, is stronger and wiser and ready for a new chapter. You really are. A chapter that draws on the best and healthiest parts of your common life. I have confidence in you. I have confidence in Kevin as your senior warden and Claire as your junior warden, and the healthy leadership in your vestry. Some of you have asked how to honor the ministry that we have shared. I would like my departure to model a leaving that strengthens your ministry and magnifies your joy. First, you can give me the gift of honoring your past without clinging to it. In her centennial sermon, you should listen to it again, Carol Anderson reminded us that nostalgia can keep us from seeing the gifts of the present moment. So treasure your memories, the recent memories and the long, deep memories, or even your nostalgia of hoped-for futures. Treasure that. Give thanks for what has been, but open your hearts to what God is actually doing now among you. Release the longing for what once was. Release the longing for what could have been, and make space for a future that is even more grace-filled than you can ask for or imagine, because I promise you that is what's waiting for you. Second, give the gift of joy. Look around you, look to your right, to your left, look at front of you, and look behind you, and see the joy that is already present here. It is abundant. This joy that comes from the Lord. It does not come from any priest in the past, in the present, or the future. That joy and that vibrancy comes from God. And you, my friends, are the ones that hold it, sustain it, and amplify it. You can give me no better gift than to recognize, receive, and magnify that joy. Third, put on the armor of light. Let go of whatever shadows weigh you down, old hurts or misunderstandings or fears. These things do not belong to your future. Instead, focus on what is flourishing. There is so much that is flourishing here. Help one another to walk in light and freedom. There is so much life and excitement and renewal here. You get to be the ones that magnify that light. And when you find yourself or others dwelling in the shadows of the past, hanging on to misunderstandings or loss or fears or old hurts, encourage one another to lay that burden down and clothe yourselves in the armor of light. Finally, you can give tangible gifts and give them to this church's ongoing ministry, to the mission that continues, a mission of prayer and worship and music and outreach. The church exists for these things, for proclaiming Christ's love in this city and beyond. That is the work worth giving to, and you will have the opportunity to do so. You also have the opportunity to do that now. And I will just say, if you haven't pledged yet for 2026, do it. I need you to do that in honor of the ministry that we have shared and the ministry you claim with your new rector. Let me finish strong and let him or her start strong. Later this week, the vestry and I will share more about the timing of my departure and the work already underway with your senior warden, your vestry, the bishop, and Canon Tom to identify clergy who will take care of you in between my departure and your new rector's arrival. I've spoken with Betsy and Anne, your very faithful, active, retired associates who are here all the time, and we love them. They will continue to be here for you and with you, not as your interim priest, but as faithful, loving associates who care deeply for you and are committed to being a bridge between now and as your new rector gets settled. We are grateful for that. There are an abundance of clergy who love this church. You are going to be in great hands. And as we enter this Advent season, as we keep awake and prepare, I invite you to see this time of transition not only as loss, but as an invitation to an exciting new chapter and season. My work here is complete. My work here is done. What has been done has been done. What has not been done has not been done. Let it be. God is already preparing the next chapter for all saints. Our task now is to stay awake, to walk in the light, and to trust that the future God is shaping is radiant. It is radiant with grace and goodness for each one of us. Amen.